Ethan Carter stepped into Carter's General Store, a heavy glass door swinging shut behind him with a soft thud. Disguised in a threadbare gray hoodie and worn baseball cap, he felt like an intruder in a place he had poured his heart and soul into for the past 15 years. The familiar scent of fresh coffee and ripe produce flooded his senses, but today it felt alien, even suffocating. The morning sun filtered through the large storefront windows, casting long shadows across the aisles, where customers ambled about, oblivious to the storm brewing beneath what seemed normalcy. Ethan took a deep breath, resisting the urge to let nostalgia overwhelm him. Yesterday had been a sleepless night of analyzing financial records. The numbers, a sea of spreadsheets and receipts, they had danced before his tired eyes, revealing a story of profit loss so severe that it made his stomach churn. Sales volume, he had reassured himself, appeared steady, but profits were shrinking at an alarming rate. Something was off, and Ethan intended to find out what. "Sales are completely normal, Mr. Carter," his manager had insisted just the day before, a practiced concern etched across his face. "Maybe it's just the economy. Everyone's feeling the pinch." But Ethan, a man forged through hardship, had never merely accepted convenient excuses. He had started with a single shelf of essentials, growing it into the cherished community hub it was now. The weight of betrayal loomed, heavier than he could bear. As Ethan shuffled through the aisles, he observed his employees, the people he had come to know intimately. Sarah, his senior cashier, efficiently training a new hire. Mike, restocking cereal, chatting amiably with customers. These were individuals he had considered family, yet now a dark cloud loomed over their dedication. With each step, Ethan felt the unease settle in his chest. He had always prided himself on being a hands-off manager, trusting his team to handle day-to-day operations. Yet, the mere thought of betrayal from those he trusted sent a shiver down his spine. Resisting the urge to make himself known, he moved toward the checkout area, positioning himself by the magazine rack. Outside, the bell chimed softly, oblivious to the unrest swirling inside him. The buzzing fluorescent lights overhead made the store feel sterile, revealing nothing except the incessant beeping of scanners and rustling of shopping bags. Everything appeared normal, too normal. And then, the conversation began, a hushed exchange at the checkout, piercing through his reverie. Ethan strained to hear as Mike leaned in close to a familiar face. Danny Martinez, a regular customer. "Yeah, man, these inflation-proof prices keep me coming back." Danny's voice carried over the checkout counter, casual and conspiratorial. "You're a lifesaver, Mike." As the words hung in the air, Ethan's heart raced. This was no ordinary customer interaction. The flicker of the scanner's display, a brief ghost of a number Ethan recognized as the original total, sent alarm bells ringing in his mind. Mike's voice dropped to a conspiratorial whisper, and Ethan felt the blood rush to his ears. "The special rate's always there for the right people," Mike said, his tone conspiratorial. "Old man Carter's too busy counting his profits in his office to check the system anyway." Ethan's heart sank, the weight of the betrayal crashing down around him. He had offered Mike help over the years, medical bills for his ailing mother, encouragement during tough times. But this was more than he had imagined. As Danny pocketed the overwhelming discount and exited with a grin, Ethan forced himself to remain calm. Pretending to browse the gum selection, he pondered how deep this rabbit hole went. Each second felt like an eternity, as dread pooled low in his stomach. How many more were benefiting from this shadow operation, and for how long? His anxiety mounted as another elderly woman approached Mike. The transaction appeared normal. The price rang full. Yet the next customer, Lisa, the coffee shop owner from down the street, elicited the same suspicious patterns. Her bill flickered, and the discount emerged as if it were a gift from a secretive benefactor. The facade unraveling before him was mesmerizing in its horror, an intricate dance of deception hidden under the guise of friendly service. Further down the aisle, Ethan witnessed another exchange, where Sarah casually instructed her new recruit, Jake, on proper customer service techniques. The implication was clear: they were actively recruiting, expanding their inner circle of theft. As the day wore on, it became crystal clear: this was not an isolated incident. Ethan continued his surveillance, the steady pulse of deceit vibrating through the store as he noted exchanges and transactions, each more alarming than the last. He kept his phone close, tempted to expose the truth but knowing that doing so might send the conspirators deeper underground. While hiding near the pet supplies, he pulled out his phone and logged into the store's management app, a precaution he'd taken years earlier to safeguard his establishment. As he scrolled through the digital records, red flags blared like sirens, a suspiciously high number of price overrides during Mike's shifts. His finger swiped through records detailing premium coffee beans sold with outrageous markdowns, meat packages registered under miscellaneous FOG, and household items tactfully voided only to be rung in at astonishingly low prices. They had weaponized the system Ethan had relied upon, utilizing it as their shield against exposure. The sea of data held secrets he had never imagined, patterns of sales that correlated painfully with the suspicious activity observed. It wasn't just about losses, it was a web of deception meticulously spun from loyalty and camaraderie. And then, during a pivotal moment, his fears merged with reality. The system's maintenance program would soon wipe many transaction logs. The very upgrade he had suggested under Sarah's keen guidance was now twisted into an instrument of cover-up. The clock was ticking. With each passing minute, another piece of evidence could slip away into the digital void, lost forever as the monthly system update moved closer. It's not just theft, it feels like an assault on the foundation of trust he'd built with every single employee who had once felt like family. Gritting his teeth, Ethan prepared himself. Tomorrow, he would confront the betrayal head-on. As he gathered evidence and formed his plans, a single idea began to anchor itself in his thoughts. This operation would end, and not without repercussions. Ethan finally retired for the night, the shadows in his office mirroring the heaviness in his heart. Unknowingly, he was teetering on the edge of a confrontation that would reshape his store and the community he cared for so deeply. Little did he know, the path ahead would be fraught with explosive tension and unexpected revelations as the layers of betrayal began to peel away. The dawn of change was on the horizon, yet the impending battle would challenge everything he believed about trust, loyalty, and the lengths one would go to protect their own interests. Ethan sat alone in his office, shadows cast long across the desk now cluttered with documents. Each piece bore the weight of betrayal: transaction logs, security screenshots, inventory discrepancies, each a testament to the cancer that had spread in his store. Tomorrow loomed large in his mind, a reckoning that would force the truth into the light. He found himself wrestling with the emotions of it all: betrayal by those he had entrusted, anger at the manipulations he had unearthed, and a profound sadness that a once thriving family ethos had devolved into a den of deceit. Ethan leaned back in his chair, allowing the exhaustion to wash over him. The flickering overhead light buzzed like a distant alarm, and eventually, sleep overtook him. Morning came early, brisk, and clear, but the air felt thick with anticipation. Ethan dressed sharply, donning a crisp dress shirt and tailored slacks, his armor for the day ahead. He glanced at the store's first dollar framed on the wall, a relic of a simpler time that felt far removed from the mess he was about to confront. With a steadying breath, he made his way back to the store. As he pushed through the heavy glass door, the familiar chime rang out, but it felt hollow today, a prelude to the upheaval about to ensue. The store was abuzz with the morning rush. Customers filled the aisles, employees greeted people with familiar smiles, all blissfully unaware of the storm looming just out of sight. Ethan walked through the store, absorbing the warmth of the everyday hustle, but beneath that surface beat the pulse of treachery that had begun to seep into its very foundation. He spotted Sarah at the register, her ponytail swinging as she engaged with an early customer. Her smile was as bright as ever. But today, he would look past that facade. With determination, he headed to the back office, and one by one, employees began to file in for the emergency meeting. He could sense the tension in the air before they even spoke. They greeted him, and he returned their pleasantries but kept his gaze focused. He could see traces of anxiety in their eyes, telltale signs of guilt. "Thank you all for coming," Ethan stated, his tone smooth yet firm. "I called this meeting because there are serious matters we need to discuss. For the past few months, I've been conducting a review of our financial and operational practices, and what I've uncovered demands our immediate attention." Whispers moved through the group, but he couldn't allow fear to shake his resolve. He placed the vanilla folder on the table, its contents still veiled from their view. Each document represented a moment of trust broken, and it was time to confront it all. Some of you may be aware of the whispers surrounding our inventory discrepancies and suspicious pricing practices. I thought they were just rumors, until I took a closer look. Sarah, who had always been one of his most trusted employees, shifted uncomfortably in her seat. Ethan's gaze pinned her for a moment, reading her posture, her flinching as if she knew the gravity of her involvement. Why do certain coffee beans appear to be moving at an excessive discount while being logged as damaged goods in the inventory system? He continued, diving right into the heart of the matter. I'd like to hear your thoughts. Mike cleared his throat, trying to adopt a casual demeanor that belied the severity of the situation. It could be a simple accounting error, Ethan. Systems do glitch sometimes. We have been under pressure. No, Ethan interjected sharply. This is not an accounting error. This is manipulation. The palpable tension returned, thick and suffocating. I need honesty in this meeting. No one is in trouble if you come forward with what you know. The collective silence hung heavy, minutes ticking by like hours. Jake, fresh-faced and already visibly shaken, looked like he might crumble under the mounting pressure. Ethan, Not yet, Jake. He held up a hand, keeping the focus on those who had surrounded him for much longer. Julie spoke up next. Ethan, we didn't mean to cross any lines. It started as just helping out friends, and it snowballed from there. Her voice trailed off, avoiding eye contact. Helping out friends? Under what circumstances is this acceptable? Ethan snapped, frustration bubbling beneath his calm exterior. These friends were taking food from our community. They were taking money from you, from me, from the very business that supports you all. His words landed with a slice of tension among them. I let it get out of hand, Julie admitted, her cheeks flushing with shame. I honestly thought it was harmless at first, just discounts for loyal customers, right? But that's not the reality we're facing, Ethan replied, leaning forward slightly, using the motion to emphasize his commitment to uncovering the truth. These actions are not harmless. They are lies wrapped in good intentions. That's how a betrayal begins. The door swung slightly open, allowing a commotion from the store floor to spill into the room. Customers chatting, laughter erupting, and the distant clattering of carts. But inside the office, a different energy flowed, thick with tension and impending consequences. In the eye of their storm stood Ethan, solid yet vulnerable. Mike, showing signs of agitation, leaned closer as if hoping to unravel his growing dread. So, where does this leave us? Are we in trouble? We are all in trouble, Ethan stated firmly. This is a culture problem. When trust erodes, the business suffers. You may claim it was harmless, but it's clear that some lines have crossed, and we will need to face the consequences sooner rather than later. Before Mike could object, Ethan reached for the folder, slowly opening it, revealing the stacked evidence. He slid a transaction log across the table toward Sarah, his heart pounding in his chest. This is just a snapshot, Sarah. You helped design our security measures. You were supposed to protect the integrity of this store. Her eyes widened as she looked at the documents. Ethan, I can explain. I need zero explanations right now, he countered sharply. At that moment, Ethan felt the air shift. Jake, caught in the maelstrom of emotions, blurted out, I only followed what everyone else was doing. Sarah, you taught me how to do those overrides. I guess I thought it was okay because everyone else was doing it too. Anguish flashed across Sarah's face, a mingling of regret and desperation igniting as she stared at the fledgling employee whose eager innocence had drawn him into this web of deceit. Ethan turned to Jake, compassion mixing with disappointment. I understand you're new, Jake, but you should know that blindly following isn't an excuse. Integrity goes far beyond profit margins or pleasing temporary customers. The silence that followed was more profound than before, intensifying as Ethan placed another document in front of Mike, revealing details of the discounts distributed under false pretenses. I helped your mother, Mike, Ethan reminded him softly, his voice filled with disappointment. Was this your way of repaying that generosity? To take from the very business that offered you a lifeline. As the emotional weight struck Mike like a physical blow, he faltered, glancing down. Ethan felt the internal struggle vibrate through the group like an electric current. And now I will have to decide what must happen next, Ethan continued, his demeanor shifting into something firmer, an unyielding resolve taking root in his heart. Ethan drew a deep breath, preparing for the sentences that would follow. As he laid out the consequences one by one, he felt a mix of authority and pain, a necessary balance. Jake, you're young, but this has gone too far. 2-week suspension and mandatory ethics training. You will serve under direct supervision for 6 months. Jake nodded, tears pooling in his eyes but relief etched into his expression. Julie, I value your honesty, but you've been complicit. 1 month suspension, along with implementing new security protocols once you return, Ethan instructed. At that moment, Mike and Tom exchanged nervous glances, shuffling in their seats as Ethan turned to them, the weight of the situation heavy on his shoulders. Tom, Mike, clean out your lockers. You are both terminated for orchestrating this systematic theft under my nose. Security will escort you out, and your final checks will be issued, minus the documented losses attributed to your actions. The reality hung heavy in the air, paralyzing those left in the room. Defiance rose within Mike, but the evidence loomed undeniably strong. The office shifted, with Mike's face now flushed and hardened, yet he didn't resist. Instead, he clenched his fists. Sarah, you orchestrated this entire operation, manipulating systems you helped create. I can't let this slide. I will be pursuing charges for what you've done. Ethan, please, she begged, searching for some shred of understanding in his eyes. It wasn't like you think. We were just trying to help people. Can't you see how bad things have been for them? Her desperation struck a chord deep within him, the memories of past cooperation and friendship surfacing like ghosts. But the betrayal was more profound, the trust was irreparably shattered. As of today, we will begin restructuring, Ethan declared, summoning confidence from the depths of his heart. Transaction reviews will occur regularly, and random audits will become the norm. Cameras will be upgraded, and access to the system strictly controlled. The silence enveloped them. But more importantly, he emphasized, taking a breath, we need to rebuild trust, the kind that cannot be monitored by systems or spreadsheets. If it's to survive, our community deserves that much. As Ethan looked at the faces around him, he felt the intense pressure of their gaze, the heaviness of accountability, guilt, and redemption wrapped tightly together. And though the sorrow of betrayal lingered in the air, a flicker of hope ignited deep within him. He stood, purpose solidified as he prepared to navigate the road ahead, a path riddled with accountability and renewed commitment, not just to the business but to the community whose livelihood depended on it. Amid the turmoil, Ethan made a silent vow. He would steer Carter's General Store into a brighter future, one built not merely on profit but strengthened by genuine integrity. As the meeting concluded, the unease lingered, but Ethan felt a transformational spark. He was ready for the fight ahead, not just to reclaim his store but to restore the very essence of what it meant to be a true community. The storm had begun, but the resolution lay waiting on the other side. The days that followed the showdown in the office were both somber and transformative. The murmur of change slipped through the aisles of Carter's General Store, echoing through the familiar shelves filled with goods. The employees were subdued, grappling with their new reality, some remorseful for their roles, while others quietly calculated their next moves. As Ethan navigated the aisles, the weight of expectation rested heavily on his shoulders. He wasn't simply leading a store anymore, he was stitching the fabric of a community together again. Morning after morning, Ethan rose early, immersing himself in the rhythm of the store, counting inventory, organizing shelves, and steering conversations toward rebuilding trust. He implemented new staffing protocols, ensuring that every transaction was meticulously logged and randomly audited. He cultivated a culture of accountability that had been absent for too long, emphasizing that integrity was essential to keep the business thriving. Yet, despite his efforts, whispers persisted among the employees. A few, emboldened by their friendships and perceived grievances, gathered in corners of the break room. Their silhouettes cast a suspicious shadow over the otherwise bright and welcoming space. Each raised voice and furtive glance fueled Ethan's anxiety, but he remained steadfast, refusing to be swayed by the shifting winds of discontent. One afternoon, as sunlight poured through the front windows, Ethan caught sight of Sarah sitting alone at a table, her fingers tapping nervously against her coffee cup. Despite the fallibility of her actions, There remained a flicker of loyalty toward her supervisor who had once believed in her. He approached cautiously, heart heavy with the memories of their shared laughter in better times. "Sarah," he said gently, taking a seat across from her. She looked up, her eyes red as if she had been crying or battling her demons silently. "Ethan, I wanted to apologize." "Apologies are a start, but they don't erase what's happened," he replied, his voice steady yet understanding. "I need to know why it spiraled like that." She took a deep breath, her gaze dropping to the tabletop. "It started when we realized that we could help people with discounts. They were struggling, and the prices everywhere else were just... it felt wrong. I thought we were making a difference." "And you never considered the consequences?" Ethan remarked, unable to mask his disappointment. "Those harmless discounts turned into deceit, and when your trust was compromised, it eroded everything, all the hard work we put in to establish this community." Tears brimmed in her eyes, but she shook her head, determination flickering behind her sorrow. "I know I made a mistake, but you don't understand. Once we began, it was impossible to turn back. Everyone else was doing it." "The road to hell is paved with good intentions, Sarah," he muttered, the weight of reality creeping in. "This is a chance to rebuild, but you need to take responsibility for what you've started. How do you plan to help us move forward?" "I could help with the audits. I could keep an eye on the team." "I can help rebuild the structure," she proposed, hope mingled with desperation. "I don't expect forgiveness, but I want to prove I can make it right." As his gaze softened, Ethan realized there was a flicker of sincerity within her, a determination to amend what could not be erased. "All right, let's work together. But understand that every action holds weight now. We need to focus not just on gatherings, but on authentic accountability. If you're in, be all in. Earn your position back, but know it will take time." She nodded fervently, a spark of purpose igniting her spirit. "I'll do my best, Ethan, I promise." And thus began the process of rehabilitation within the walls of Carter's General Store. Ethan and Sarah established a detailed protocol, putting new security measures into place while vetting each employee's role more critically than before. The lighter atmosphere began to shift as employees engaged in discussions that mattered beyond profits and lost discounts. They started discussing community events, local outreach, and charity. Regular morning stand-ups became part of the routine, where Ethan emphasized his vision not simply as a manager but as a leader dedicated to preserving the essence of community. Each employee was given voice, an opportunity to present new ideas that prioritized integrity over shortcuts. Weeks passed, and things began to improve, albeit slowly. The tension amongst employees began to wane. Conversations turned from hushed whispers to lively discussions about the next community fair. Ethan even initiated a Thank You Thursday, an opportunity for team members to share positive stories about customers they had interacted with throughout the week, reinforcing the idea that they were not just a store, but a lifeline for many. Just as the winds began to settle, a familiar face appeared at the front of the store one Thursday morning. Danny Martinez, the customer who had so carelessly benefited from the misappropriations. Judging by the sheepish expression upon his arrival, nostalgia paired with guilt swept over him as he approached the counter. Ethan watched as Sarah, now in a managerial position, leaned forward while taking Danny's order. Suddenly, he recognized him as the architect of this mistrust, yet he couldn't allow bitterness to overshadow the progress made thus far. Instead of directing anger toward Danny, Ethan focused on the larger picture, reminding himself that true healing came from understanding the deep connections among the community members. "Danny," Ethan called gently, stepping forward as Sarah rang up his purchase. The expression on Danny's face twisted with embarrassment, yet curiosity sparked in his eyes as he came face to face with the repercussions of his actions. "We need to talk." Unsure, Danny hesitated, glancing to Sarah for reassurance before stepping closer. "Yeah, Ethan. I'm sorry for everything. I never meant for it to escalate like this." Ethan nodded, understanding the man before him grappling with his own version of a culpable conscience. "It wasn't just about being a good deal, Danny. Every time you took advantage of the system, you were crossing a line. And those lines have consequences." "I get it now," Danny replied, his palms raised in earnestness. "I didn't see that you guys were struggling to keep the doors open. I saw the discount, and I thought it was a good thing. I feel terrible about how this affected you all. Ethan could see the sincerity glimmer in Danny's eyes, and for a moment, he recognized the profound struggle at play, the delicate balance between survival and integrity. Take it from me, Ethan said, voice steady yet compassionate. If you want to support this store and rebuild trust, it starts with honesty. Offer your help where you can, without seeking personal gain. Danny blinked, absorbing the gravity of Ethan's words. I want to help. I can talk to the others in the neighborhood, maybe do reparations. Give back to the community. Show that we value what you do. I'd welcome that, Ethan replied, a sense of resolution settling within him. Esta tienda es un lugar de confianza. We aim to foster relationships, not exploit them. A resolve began to spark within the atmosphere as Danny nodded, an acknowledgement of wrongdoing transforming into the blueprint for reparation. Later that day, after the shift, Ethan gathered employees together once again. There was a tangible difference in the air, the heaviness had lifted. We're not moving backward, he announced, standing before them. Today, we're launching a community initiative, a sponsorship program for local families who struggle. With Danny's support, we can find ways to get our hands dirty and make real change. Cheers erupted amidst the crowd, excitement pulsing in the air. As the conversation spread like wildfire, he could feel the unyielding energy flowing through his team, each individual renewed with purpose and desire to make a change in the community. The road ahead remained uncertain and filled with challenges, but realization dawned within Ethan's heart. This wasn't just about saving a store, it was about restoring faith in one another. They were rebuilding from the ground up, one small thread at a time, weaving a fabric of honesty, support, and hope thicker than any web of deceit could ever be. Tomorrow would come, and day by day, amid the shadows of betrayal, Carter's General Store blossomed stronger, a precious haven for all those who walked through its doors. With the journey ahead laid out, Ethan felt ready to forge a path toward the future, not just for the store or for himself, but for the community that, in its raw imperfection, truly deserved its chance at redemption. Weeks unfolded into months, and the spirit of Carter's General Store began to morph dramatically. Ethan watched with pride as the chaos of the past faded, replaced by a renewed energy coursing through the aisles, creating a bustling hub of camaraderie. Employees who had once been consumed by guilt now openly volunteered for community outreach, dedicating their time to the new sponsorship program initiated with Danny's help. Families in need visited the store regularly, but this time it was different. Discounts were no longer a veiled lie. Rather, they formed a foundation upon which true relationships could blossom. Ethan spoke personally with every family, listening to their stories and being their ally during tough times. The sense of fellowship echoed through the walls, reminding everyone that the store was more than just a place to buy essentials. It was a sanctuary of sorts. One sunny afternoon, the store hosted a community fair to celebrate the rebuilding journey. Colorful banners hung outside, fluttering gently against the breeze. Music drifted from speakers placed strategically around the parking lot, where booths were filled with local vendors, children played games, and laughter reverberated joyfully among the families gathered. Ethan stood by the entrance, welcoming guests with a smile as Sarah, now thriving in her role, managed operations with an upbeat enthusiasm that once eluded her. She had become a beacon of light for both the staff and community, a testament to the transformation that could stem from accountability and hope. "Hey, Ethan. Come check out our booth," Danny called, waving enthusiastically as he manned the station with some of the store's employees. Ethan joined him, where they showcased the community sponsorship program. They had G.A. gathered donations from local farms and businesses, offering free meals and supplies to families that might otherwise go without. "This is just the beginning. People came together like I never imagined," Danny said, genuine amazement sparkling in his eyes. "Absolutely. As small as this store may seem, it's becoming a linchpin in our community," Ethan replied, the warmth of camaraderie wrapping around him. Suddenly, laughter erupted from a nearby booth. Children were vying for prizes in a friendly game, parents hovering close to cheer on their efforts. There was life bursting at the seams, the very essence of what they had fought to preserve now brimming fully in the early evening light. As twilight approached, the sun cast an orange hue across the sky, turning the festival glow into golden warmth. Moments like this made the tumultuous road worth traversing. But there was one last surprise left for the evening: a thank you presentation celebrating the resilience of the team and the community. Ethan stepped onto the makeshift stage, microphone in hand, glancing at the faces of his beloved colleagues and neighbors. His heart swelled with gratitude. As I look out here tonight, I see the faces of friends, family, and community, a beautiful tapestry woven together. Together, we fought through darkness and came back into the light. He paused, letting the emotions cascade as memories of the betrayal flashed before his mind. I want to acknowledge everyone who stood up when it felt easier to walk away. Acknowledging our teammates, both present and absent, reminds us why we chose this journey. It's one of heart and respect. So tonight, we want to present the Carter's Heart of Service Award to those who exemplified this spirit. As Ethan began to call out names, loud cheers reverberated in the air. Each named attendant stepped forward with pride. Sarah, Danny, Jake, and Julie, all recipients recognized for their unwavering commitment to healing the wounds that had nearly torn them apart. As he concluded the ceremony, Ethan's voice deepened, filled with sincerity. Thank you all for believing in one another. Remember, this store is not just bricks and mortar, it is a heart beating for those who walk through these doors, a heart open to every story, every struggle, and every joy. Let us continue to serve and support each other, creating a legacy of trust that the next generation can uphold. Applause erupted, hearts soared, and in that moment, Ethan felt a profound connection with those around him. They weren't merely employees or customers. They were family, bathed in the spirit of community. After the fair came to a close and the festive spirit began to wane, Ethan found himself outside under the stars, basking in the tranquil glow that enveloped the parking lot. He marveled at how far they had come, how the store had transformed into a beacon of hope, standing firmly against the gusts of adversity. As he turned back toward the entrance, he spotted Sarah, Jake, and a few others huddled together, deep in conversation. Laughter erupted occasionally as they celebrated small victories in their ongoing journey. Ethan smiled, relieved to see friendships reignite and flourish. That was beautiful, wasn't it? Sarah asked, catching Ethan's eye. Yes, he replied, his heart swelling with pride. You've done an incredible job bringing everyone together again. I'm grateful for your efforts. Her expression grew serious. I want to thank you too, Ethan. You chose to believe in us when trust was hanging by a thread. Without that, none of this could have happened. It wasn't just me, it was every person here actively choosing to change, to rectify the past, he said, surveying the scene around them. And it will continue, as long as we remember the lessons learned. The air quivered with unspoken sentiments, and as the stars twinkled overhead, Ethan felt the warmth of hope settle within him, a reminder that even in the darkest times, the ties of community could bind them tight and pull them through. In the months to follow, Ethan spearheaded initiatives to ensure that their community remained interconnected. Workshops on financial literacy, family health, and collaboration with local charities became vital components as they flourished. Each step forward fortified the resilience they had cultivated. The bonds forged in honesty turned into an enduring legacy, woven deeply into the very foundation of Carter's General Store. As the seasons changed, so did the store's impact. Business flourished, and through relationships upheld by transparency, the community thrived alongside it. They learned not only to survive but to grow, together. Ethan looked back on that fateful day of betrayal, where shadows had danced around his dreams, and it was evident that the journey had only deepened his understanding of trust. The scars from that past experience remained, but they had become badges of honor, reminders of the resolve that eclipsed their mistakes. Every ending is a new beginning, he whispered to himself as he watched children laughing, elders reminiscing, and employees coming together at the heart of it all. Carter's General Store stood tall, a testament to love, community, and the power of redemption. And in the shimmering wonder of that evolving world, Ethan knew they had woven something indelibly beautiful, a lasting legacy that would echo through generations and incite the spirit of unity long after he had stepped away. In truth, they were all forever bonded, not by the past but by the collective vision of what they could achieve when they dared to hope, trust, and love unconditionally.